Welcome back, everyone, to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. Our guest today is amazing. I'm so excited to have this conversation, and it's in a topic in a category that we really haven't touched on, which we'll get to in a minute here. But my guest today, Vanessa Schreckengast, which I practiced many times before getting on here, is a mom of three and is someone who I admire deeply. Not only does she have children with disabilities, but she is also a teacher. And she is really kind of balancing both being in the throes of navigating kind of this medical mama role while also trying to kind of almost in her own way find like this new version of motherhood that I know she never anticipated. So Vanessa, before I kind of share everything about you and we get all into it, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Vanessa, as we talked about in the call that we had a few weeks ago, your motherhood journey into the, special needs community, I would say kind of looks a little different than others, but why don't you share with me, or share with our listeners rather, a little bit more about kind of what thrust you into this community?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I have 3 kids. My oldest is named Milo, and he's completely neurotypical. He's 7. And then my middle daughter, she's 4. Her name is Madison. We all call her Maddie. She was born with hearing loss, and we did not know that at the time. My family, both my husband and I, are carriers for a recessive gene that caused her hearing loss. So when she was born, we went through all the normal hospital tests and stuff like that, and immediately she failed. And they tried to reassure us, like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. Most of the time they just have fluid in their ears, that kind of thing. So we went about our business, and then she failed again, and she failed again. And it was after, a couple of months when we officially got her like hearing aids and went through all of the audiology studies and stuff like that, we did genetics and found out that she had this mutation from both of us. So I always joke that she's kind of like my training wheels into this whole special needs community, because at the time, it was a very devastating diagnosis. I was, my baby girl. I was so excited to have a girl, and it was just a very life-altering experience to be like, oh my gosh, like she's deaf. Like she's not fully deaf, but she's hard of hearing. And so, yeah, it was just this whirlwind at the time. And now I kind of can look back at it and slightly giggle and think that that's just, such a minor thing in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah. So before we move to the next phase of this, for Maddie, I mean, I'm curious, how fast after, you talked about the failed hearing test, how soon after those tests were you able to get implants, and what was that process like?
We went back, I think, for a study for her, maybe like 2 weeks after she was born. We went back to the hospital to get a more in-depth study. And then we did something called an ABR with her shortly after that study. And then we were aided. So she's not a candidate for a cochlear implant just because she doesn't have hearing loss that's significant enough. So she only has hearing aids, but she has bilateral hearing loss. It's considered moderate to severe in the scope of things. And yeah, she, I think, had hearing aids in place by 2 to 3 months old, which is amazing because that can change their whole trajectory. Yeah.
Wow. And what's kind of, how is she today? How do you describe her? How is she socially? Shed some light.
She's our sassy, middle child, really brave, wants to keep up with her older brother, super social, super loving, cracking us up all the time. She definitely still is in speech. Speech therapy is something she still has to do. For her, maybe like 3-ish, she was very talkative, but complete gibberish. It sounded like a minion. And so, but she's made so many strides and has made so much progress, and she's, pretty easily understood now. We still have problems, but we're, in therapy, and she has an IEP and attends preschool like normal. And
wow. It's amazing. And again, such a testament to you and your husband for recognizing, getting on it so fast, not missing a beat. Because to your point, when there's early intervention, there's so much you can do to support your child and help them develop into their full potential.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, for you, you get this at the time, and it still is a devastating diagnosis. I don't think we should downplay that, right? It's a significant disability in terms of communication, and it certainly rises to the level of very different than what you anticipated. Once you heard that, were you like, we're done? Were you like, no, we have to have another child? Was 3 always in the cards? Talk me through that decision point, given the fact that this really came out of left field for you and your husband.
Yeah, absolutely. We always wanted 3 children. It was like a dream we talked about, early on when we were dating even. But it was scary. It was scary to we knew after the genetics that we had a 1 in 4 shot of having another baby with hearing loss. And so when we were getting ready and thinking about having Merritt, who's our third, we ended up, just like having to fully accept like this could be our child, our next child. And the thing is with this loss, like it can be all the way from like Maddie, mild, moderate, all the way up to like profoundly deaf or completely deaf. And so we just were accepting that going in, knowing, okay, our family is grown. We have like an amazing community in the deaf and hard of hearing community. We have an ASL instructor that comes over every Friday and teaches us sign language. We've been learning it since she was a little baby. And so we feel pretty comfortable and we feel pretty fluent with other deaf individuals in the deaf community. And so we were like, we can do this. We can embrace this if this baby is fully deaf. This is something we want to do still.
Wow. And so you did. And
Yeah.
talk me through you find out you're pregnant. Did it feel different? Were things normal? All of that.
Yeah, no, we got pregnant quickly. We've always been very blessed and lucky for that. And we had a really normal pregnancy. I ended up deciding not to do any of the extensive genetic testing that they have to like go into the amniotic fluid and that kind of stuff, because at the time it was just for hearing loss and it felt too risky to risk the baby's like health just to know if he or she was going to be deaf. So we ended up not pressing to see if we passed that gene on. And besides that, I was monitored pretty closely with maternal fetal medicine just because I'm geriatric. I was too old. As like a
35 years old, Vanessa.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like 37-year-old.
Now.
Yeah. Rude. But yeah, so anyways, I decided not to do any of the testing or anything like that and had a pretty normal pregnancy up until like maybe the last week before he was born. He was born full term at 38 weeks. And at like 37 weeks, I went in for one of the last ultrasounds and his head was measuring 2 weeks too small. And I remember being like, why is that showing like 34, 35 weeks? And they're like, oh, it's probably nothing. Like, let's get the doctor in or whatever. And the doctor did a bunch of measurements and was like, no, like, we don't think this is significant. We don't think it's microcephaly. It's not like outside the standard deviations enough. And pretty much like sent me on my way. There was like a couple more precautions for my birth where I had to make sure there wasn't going to be like a shoulder issue coming out or anything like that. But yeah, nothing besides that. And then in the hospital, healthy birth for the most part, slight weird things that now I can look back on and be like, like that might have been something, that might have been part of it. But yeah, it wasn't until we got him home, his head was measuring 40th percentile in the hospital, we got him home, and 2 weeks in, my sister was also pregnant with me at the time, and she had her baby almost exactly 2 weeks after Merritt. And I saw her newborn and I just knew. I was like, something is wrong with my baby. His head was just so significantly small compared to my sister's baby's head. And I just like knew in my gut, like something sunk. And, we were also dealing with weird like jaundice issues and kidney issues and stuff that no one had like connected dots with, still haven't connected dots with. But yeah, it was like this really gut punching feeling of just like something's wrong. And I know it.
Wow. But what's interesting to me, I do want to go back to something. You said he was measuring in the 40th percentile when he came out, which doesn't to me sound alarming at all.
Yeah.
And so it just like in the days or weeks to follow, I guess he wasn't growing at that cliff. And then when you saw the delta between your sister's baby and him, that's when you knew, even though the numbers itself weren't alarming.
Yeah. And they, looking back on it now, doctors have told me that the 40th percentile thing was probably just like a swollen head, like coming out of birth. They don't think he like acquired this over time or something. They think he's always had it, but it just didn't flag until the 2-week appointment with my pediatrician when it was definitely way below the first percentile all of a sudden.
And so, I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. Like microcephaly, like I didn't know what that was until I met you. So
yes.
When you get that sinking feeling in your stomach, what's your first reaction? Like, obviously, other than just that, the fear and the like, excuse my language, the, oh shit, like this is not good. What was your next call?
I mean, unfortunately, I think for a lot of moms, it's Google. It's like you go down this like huge rabbit hole. I call it spiraling. I just like spiral out of control. I'm such a researcher and I'm such like a figure it out type person anyways. And so I turned to Google and I had a pediatrician appointment like really soon. So I immediately like went there and offloaded everything. But a lot of your research is done like privately on Google trying to like search for your exact scenario and you're never going to find it. You know what I mean? And so it's dangerous to do, but you do.
So you talked about some of the other side effects. So jaundice, what was the other thing you mentioned?
Yeah, just weird stuff. He had really bad jaundice. He needed a sugar, like a glucose problem when he was first born. My placenta was like, they called it ragged. When it came out, it didn't look healthy. And they've never explained that to me either. I'm not sure the connection there. And then his kidneys, there was like a weird kidney concern with just like them not emptying fully, which some of this stuff cleared and became no big deal. But I always kind of wonder how it all like lines up, you know?
Vanessa, as you talk, I'm just envisioning you and your husband thinking like, not again. Like how, again, to your point about the 1 in 4 chances of hearing loss again. And here you are with seemingly more complexities. How did you take care of your heart, your mind in those early days?
You know, I think like in the early days, I was like naively still positive and like hopeful. Honestly, like there were so many doctors telling me that this is probably still nothing. This is probably still nothing. I think it's almost to their detriment that they try to like provide comfort and confidence to parents. Sometimes like they're like, it's probably fine. It's probably nothing. You know, we moved into instantly like research mode with the doctors too, where it was like MRIs and CTs and X-rays and so I think in those early days, I still was just, it's probably fine. It's probably nothing. It wasn't until, first MRI comes back. I remember first X-ray came back actually, and they mentioned something about his frontal lobes like missing. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, because the X-ray wasn't even supposed to be looking at his brain. It was supposed to be looking at his like skull structure to see if something it's called craniosynostosis or something where their head is fused when it's not supposed to be. So I wasn't even expecting to read anything about his brain in that. And when I read that his frontal lobes might be missing, that's when like it all hit. Devastation was just like, took over. And yeah.
How many weeks was he when that happened? When that MRI or excuse me, that
I think maybe like 2 months old is when everything started to like come in and all that stuff started to hit. Yeah.
Wow. So the discovery to try to understand a diagnosis, what type of doctors were you going to? Did he have to go back to the NICU? What was his journey like?
Yeah, so we never entered the NICU because that's the thing. He was healthy. He's always been like 80th, 90th percentile in his height, his weight. I mean, he's always gained weight. And so we were never a NICU baby, but we saw a crap ton of specialists. It was just instantly like plate is full. Neurosurgeons, neurology, GI for like the jaundice / kidney. Like, I mean, there was just like a whole bunch of doctors on board immediately, which is overwhelming. It's, you get more used to it, unfortunately, as you go through the journey with kids. But like in the beginning, it's just like, you're just like, I just feel like you're like a deer in the headlights. You're just shocked and confused and stressed. And
wow. And for your other children, how aware were they that something was maybe off and different? How did you explain that to them?
Yeah, in those early days, I really don't think we made them very aware. Milo now, my oldest son, he's pretty aware of like, because he's asked all the questions along the way of like, why isn't Merritt talking? Why isn't Merritt walking? Why isn't, I mean, we've had some like really heartbreaking mama conversations in the past, especially because my sister, like I mentioned with her baby, they're 2 weeks apart. So he's been able to watch the trajectory of a neurotypical child right alongside Merritt. And there was one time my heart broke because he definitely said something like, I wish my brother was Finley, which is my sister's child. We just have so much fun, and it like crushed my soul. Like, I had to sit down in that moment and just be like, no, we never wish that. Like, we love him for like who he is, and I'm getting emotional about it, but it's hard to know that his siblings are going through things in their own way and have to accept these things in their own, path. And, Madison has no understanding at all because she's 4 and she could care less. She wants to, watch Blippi after school and like, so it's like we're not at that like age and era for her yet to even understand what's going on at all. But it's been a journey, and I think every single one of us has a different journey of like acceptance and understanding with Merritt to go through, and that's hard to watch for your own other kids as well.
Well, and Vanessa, I as you talk about your sister and your nephew, that's got to be extremely hard for you too. I mean, that reminder of the path that they're on versus the path that Merritt's on. Have you accepted that?
I think it's like an ongoing process is the best way I can say it.
Yeah.
Like, yes and no. Like grief is just like this circle for the rest of my life. I think I'll have moments where I go like, dang, I wish that was my baby. Like, I wish that was him. It gets like fewer and further between, which I've like been comforted from other moms that are in this journey too, is I think you just start to like live where you are and not have as many like moments of like envy or grief for your child and where they are. But it's definitely hard. And my sister is like, we're super, super close. We're like best friends. Our kids grow up like siblings rather than cousins. And so it's a constant reminder, like every single day, that like your kid is not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. As someone, I have two sisters that I'm extremely close to. They live a couple of miles down the road. Our kids grow up together, similar to you. Like, I'll pick them up from school. They spend dinners with us. That part for me really connects because it is, especially when amongst sisters, it's just different. You look at these kids like your own and you can't help but look and compare and question and ask. And so that like reminder constantly has got to be challenging. And I acknowledge and appreciate the fact that you can label that, because I'd imagine that for your sister, like I'm sure that for her, there's a degree of guilt too, where it's like, I see this and I too wish this was different. And
Totally.
I'm so glad that that your circumstances, while different, hasn't brought you apart. It sounds like it's almost brought you together because you can be so honest with somebody.
100%. Yeah. And my whole family has gone through it because a month before Merritt was born, my mom passed away. And she was like our rock to our entire family. And she was the best grandma and she was the best support. And if I needed anything, she was always there. And so I know she would be here every single day for Merritt if she was still around. And so I think my sister and I have, as best as we can, tried to like fill in that gap to support each other. And so
yeah. It's like to still be that glue. Man, Vanessa, you've had a rough few years.
It's been a hard couple of years.
What do you do? Like, what do you do to maintain your peace, to maintain some degree of joy and relief? Like, have you found any daily habits? Are there things that you do to just try to maintain some degree of normalcy in a moment and in a chapter that sounds still very, very unpredictable?
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm still like it's like he's only 2, like I feel like I'm still in the hard stage, which who knows what that looks like eventually. But I mean, I try, like, everyone's always asking, how are you? Do you have self-care? Do you like, and sometimes, it's as dumb and you don't even want to call it self-care when you're like, I got to take a shower today, or I got to, have a cup of coffee with a friend, or like whatever the thing is. But truly, like what I'm finding out is you need community. Like I think that is like the biggest thing. And I've been able to like put myself in a really strong group of women that is here local in Colorado called the Colorado Mama Tribe. And it's so necessary because like there's so many times where you feel like you can't relate to literally anyone around you, like your friends, even your spouse, because like you're handling it like different than your husband does, being like a mom and having a mom heart. It's just a different experience. And so like my sister, my friends, my dad, like everyone that I usually turn to for support can't truly understand what it's like to go through it. And so that's when like I started reaching out to other moms that are in similar situations. And it's made like a world of difference, because without people that truly get it every day, like I feel like you can't feel seen and you can't feel like understood.
No, but I think that's a brilliant piece of advice, which is when you live in a world where you're compared to normal, able-bodied humans, it's easy to constantly feel the delta between those two worlds.
Yeah.
And of course, you live in that world. You're never going to escape that world. And if you can find reprieve or some sort of place to go, whether that's, physical play dates on a playground or just in a group chat, where you can share the low points that no one else can possibly understand. It's not like you're up late in the middle of the night just for a 2-year regression, that might be taking place, but it's on top of
Yeah.
2 or 3 other concerns that you have about feeding, about development, about whatever it is that your sister and others, it's not that they don't want to understand, they just simply can't. And that has to be, for you, it has to feel so good to finally find someone that can also just label it the way you want it to be labeled, which is like, this sucks.
Yeah, 100%. And like just to not have to even explain what sucks about it, because sometimes it's just draining and exhausting. And like the main response we hear, I think I hear as a mom with special needs kids is, how do you do it? Like, how do you wake up every day? How do you and I'm like, it's not like I'm a superhuman. I didn't like volunteer for this. I like literally, this was given to me and like you would do the same thing, like I just wake up and love my kids. That's like all you can do,
Well, yeah, I've heard this about grievers. And I would say you've certainly fallen into this category. Again, people often think that grief only means loss, and that's certainly not true. When people say the line, something along like, you're so resilient.
Yeah, so strong.
And it's like, is there another choice? Like him,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
their mom. This is my responsibility. This is what God gave me. God gave me the
Yes.
opportunity to raise these humans and to show up for them and to protect them and to keep them safe. You would do the same thing. It's not that I'm, quote, resilient. It's that I'm doing my job. It just looks
Yeah.
different than the way that than the job that you have.
Right.
And I think that, that's part of the reason why I love having conversations with moms like you, because I think that while super well intended, people don't actually realize how that line lands. And so let me turn it back to you. What do you wish people would say more of to you? Or what is the question you wish they would ask? Because I think this is the opportunity to educate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm stealing it from someone else I've seen in the community on Instagram or something, but I read something one time that was like, compliment me on my child, how well loved they are, how well supported they are, how just showing us that you see how much energy is going into the job. I think that's like more meaningful. It's more meaningful to me. It's because I know my life is hard, and I know I'm strong and resilient and all these things, but when someone does say that, it comes off as it puts more of a gap between you and them. I think of just like they'll never understand. Like they don't know what it's like to have kids with seizures every day. They don't know what it's like to hold drugs and medicine and have to blend food and put it through a tube and all the things that go into just like a normal day in the life, calling insurance, medical doctors, all the things you do, and so I think just acknowledging how loved your kid is or how supported they look or that you're doing a great job. I think those things sometimes land harder or better than I don't know how you do it.
Right.
You're so
It's
strong.
almost like, it almost feels dismissive. Like, I don't know how you do it, and I'm going to move. Like, I could never.
Yeah,
And like,
I could
you
never. And you're like,
yeah.
yeah.
Vanessa, that is such powerful advice. Oh my goodness, it's so powerful and something that I will certainly begin to incorporate into the lives of people that I know that have these sort of situations. And by the way, I actually think these advice you offer works for people in the throes of the newborn era with able-bodied children as well. Like people don't want to hear, I don't know how you do it. They want to know. They want to. Yeah. Sometimes I think about this often. How we're so quick as moms to say, I'm proud of you to our kids. I'm proud of you to our husband. I'm proud of you to a friend. But how we never say, I'm proud of you to yourself.
Yeah.
And that subtle line can make a huge difference in someone's day, or at least just helping them power through the hour of challenges or difficulties that they might be facing.
Totally.
I want to go back to Merritt, though. You talked about he's 2 years old. You're still, to your point, like I love that you have the capacity to, while you're in the weeds, you're in the throes of it all, like you still have the capacity to zoom out to say to yourself, we're very early in this journey. We're still learning. How would you describe where Merritt is? Like what formal diagnoses have you received? Where is he developmentally? I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. Yeah. So his like overarching like primary diagnosis is microcephaly. And since you had never heard of it,
Yes, so
just to
describe
explain
it
it.
to us. Yes.
Yeah. So it just means that their brain is smaller. It's like the opposite of like hydrocephaly. So their brain is smaller than it's supposed to be. But Merritt specifically is all like anatomically there. So he isn't actually missing a frontal lobe or anything like that. They were wrong when they had told me that earlier. His whole structure of his brain is there. It's just too small. And then on the outside of his brain, it's too simplified. So it's called a simplified gyral pattern. I never say that word right. But it just means that like all the waviness that's there on our brain is more smooth for him, which is a bad thing. It just means that a lot of the neurons and things that are, gathered in the curvatures of our brain to like make us who we are missing for him. However, when we like first got that diagnosis, they pretty much gave us like a huge spectrum. They were like, we don't know what this means. It could be he presents with like ADD, like autism, and that's it. And runs a pretty normal life all the way down to the gamut of like cerebral palsy, epilepsy, severely disabled. And so, it's that constant little seed of hope of just like, you don't know what's coming. You don't know how much hope to hold on to versus how much reality to kind of sip on as well. So since that progression, that first initial diagnosis, we've, I think we're more on the severe end at this point. We have cerebral palsy for his low tone as like an official diagnosis now. We have a CVI, which is like a form of, it's called cortical vision impairment. It's like a form of blindness. So it's not that his eyes aren't working. They're completely fine. It's just that his brain doesn't speak to his eyes well. And so a lot of times the messages don't get interpreted at all. So he'll like appear fully blind, or other times they're very like discombobulated or confused. And so they don't like organize themselves like our brain does.
Yeah.
And so that's been a very interesting thing to learn about. And then he has epilepsy. So he has infantile spasms since he was 7 months old. He started getting those. And that was brutal. Honestly, of all of the things, seizures are my least favorite. They are the hardest thing to watch. They're the hardest thing when you can't treat them. It feels helpless. And yeah, they've just kind of developed over time. We've tried throwing a ton of drugs and other things at it, and nothing has worked for him. So he has infantile spasms, now just called epileptic spasms, since he's over 1. And he has tonic seizures, and myoclonic is like his newest one as of like a week or 2 ago. We have those showing up now too.
And what does care look like for him?
Yeah, so he is very, very, very delayed. He can't do any normal, typical milestones. So we did see him roll. He can roll from his back to his belly, but like no sitting, no eating, no talking, no standing. And so care is like 24/7. It's all in all the time, So we are the ones who are fully responsible to move him, help him eat, help him play. Like he can't, because of the CVI, he doesn't like have motivation to use his hands because he doesn't understand that he can reach out for things. Yeah. And so it's about teaching his eyes to like recognize that, he can do things with his hands. And it's crazy how much is actually tied to vision when it comes to like motivation for kids to want to lift their head up, to want to turn to the side, to want to use their neck muscles, So yeah, it's
you also work. Like, so how do you do that?
Yeah, so I used to work full time. The first year of his life, I worked full time as a teacher, and then I realized that's not sustainable. I was like trying to pump, also call doctors or insurance within my like 30-minute little lunch break. And, then all those places would close at like 5 o'clock, and I'd get off at like 3:30 and have another hour to try to hit all the ones I missed. And it was just not working. And so that following year, I like cut my schedule down. So now I'm just part-time. I'm a part-time teacher, just 8 to noon pretty much. And then I come home and I caregive in the afternoons. And I have an amazing, obviously husband, and also another caregiver that lives with us that it's all hands on deck. So he watches them in the morning so I can go teach and feel like a human and do things that fulfill me in a different way. And then I come home and caregive in the afternoon. And then the caregiver from the morning goes and does work in the afternoon. So
wow,
we're making it work. Yeah.
Wow, Vanessa, goodness gracious, it's a lot. And I'm so just absolutely grateful for you being so open and honest with your situation with me and with our listeners. I mean, as we've talked about before, so much of the motivation behind this podcast is showing people that you're not alone in the whatever hard struggle that you're in, and you're certainly just in the throes of it all. And I think this, to state the obvious here, this is also very expensive. I mean, for the care, the food, the therapy, the equipment. I mean, this costs money.
Yeah.
Quick disclaimer to our listeners, we're going to post the registry for Merritt here. And so if you feel compelled to give and to support their wonderful families, no pressure, but just know that these things, they're not free, especially not in this country. You have to just figure it out. And so I think the day by day mentality that you shared earlier, I would imagine it's not just for him. It's like how you make it work as a household when you also have 2 other children.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is so true. And I'm so thankful for like a platform like Support Now because, a lot of the therapies we're turning towards now are like not conventional. They're not approved. They're experimental, they're all these things. But like from, speaking with tons of other families with kiddos like Merritt and stuff like that, like it's like another piece of hope and it's like another amazing, hopefully eventually like proven science for some of these things. But it's like a huge like glimmer when there's a lot of like, doubt and rainy clouds and, just uncertainty. I think some of these therapies are like what we can hold out for as like something to help our kid when nothing else is working.
Yeah. And I think sometimes for people that aren't familiar with this world, it's like, why do all that? It's expensive. And it's like, well, because if you were me as a mom, you'd run to the edge of the world, the edge of the earth for your kid. And so when you see any opportunity that allows them to advance their life, to live to that potential, you're going to do it. And you're going to break down any barrier to get there. And, certainly it's an honor to serve your family in any capacity, but I'm hopeful that your community, which you talked about before, will continue to rally around your family to provide those opportunities, not just for Merritt, but for you all as parents, so that you can see him grow and you can see him develop. I mean, it's a blessing to everybody. So I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on and sharing. I know that these conversations aren't easy. I know they open up wounds and sadness and grief. And it's because of your honesty and transparency that I think it will resonate. So thank you so much. And, I personally look forward to staying in touch and following his journey. And if I didn't say this earlier, I wanted to, I'm so proud of you because you're doing amazing. You are doing amazing. And just thank you again.
And thank you so much.